Good evening, and welcome to What's Your Story? Tonight's episode is The Music Man. My guest tonight has played a pivotal role in training musicians, entertaining countless thousands of people, while bringing the gift of music to our community for more than 40 years. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Glad to be here, James.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. Peter, where were you born and how many siblings do you have? Tell our viewing audience.
We'll start with that. Okay. I was born in Newburgh, New York. That's where I grew up.
Newburgh.
Newburgh. Just,
right.
If you go on 84, hit the Hudson River, that's Newburgh. And that's, I just have one sister, you know, who lives out in just a little south of Buffalo.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
College, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, college. I went to the SUNY in Potsdam.
State University of New York.
New York and Potsdam.
Oh,
it was one of the
Potsdam.
Yes.
There's a name right out of history, isn't it?
It is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you take music at the SUNY school?
Yeah. Potsdam was noted for one of the two. The other one was Fredonia, particularly for music education, and so that's what. And I liked for some reason Potsdam seemed to fit what I was looking for.
Did you come from a musical family?
You know, my folks liked music, but, you know, they grew up during the Depression, so there was no money for music lessons and instruments and stuff like that. I think they always wanted to do more with it. Actually, when I started taking accordion lessons, you know, they would pick it up and play it. So they always liked music, but they weren't like highly trained. They never got highly trained in it. So. What
age did the music bug bite you?
I think I always. If I can remember far back, I think I always did, because particularly, now this is going back to the late 1940s, you know, when you had 78s.
No, stop. Tell our viewing audience what that is. Excuse me.
Okay.
Many of them may not know what that is.
I know. This is before MP3s, CDs, cassette discs, 33 RPMs, 45s. It was 78s. They were about that thick, heavy plastic. They spun around, you know. But I remember my grandmother and two of my aunts lived with her, and they had a pretty good record collection. And every time I went up to visit them, I'd say hello to everybody, and then head straight into there and put on records and just sit and listen. So, and I guess that's what my father picked up on. And so when I was 7, that's when he said, Let's start you on something.
So now I'm old enough to remember the 78s. Yeah. And I remember that if you dropped one.
Oh, it was over. I mean, you know, I remember you had to change the needle every
it was shattered in 1,000 pieces.
It was gone. It was gone.
It was gone. There was no picking it up and putting it back on the record player.
No, that was, yeah. I know.
Yeah, you graduated at the end of the most turbulent decade in American history, the 60s. Yeah. Music was used to protest everything from Vietnam to women's rights. What impact did that period have on you and your music? It was
funny. For me personally.
Yeah.
Because I was so immersed in what I did. I went to college from like 1965 to 69 when probably most of this was going on. And in Potsdam, we were so far, you know, because
removed from it all.
It was pretty much removed from it all. We heard about it, but the student body wasn't really into protesting or doing anything along that line. So I I didn't watch much television because as a music student, you're either practicing, you're rehearsing, there was no time to watch television or pay attention to what was going on in the news. It wasn't until after I got out and started teaching, and then I started paying attention to it, and then it was like, wow, I didn't realize all this was going on.
Really?
It was like, and of course, the view on the war, the whole Vietnam. I knew Vietnam was going on.
Absolutely, yes.
But
yes.
I didn't realize, you know, the extent of which until it started. And then I started realizing, you know, almost what a futile. Set of circumstances it was.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it probably changed, you know, whole outlook on government.
So Peter, in the 60s, did you wear bell-bottom pants?
Not until the 70s. Not until the 70s.
Did you have a piece medal on, Peter?
No, I never did anything like that.
Did
but
you have a wild hairstyle? Too?
No.
No, you never.
No,
I
did have long hair though.
Did you have platform shoes?
No. You know, it was kind of conservative. It was like, because, you know, it was coming home one time, what was it? I remember, this is after I graduated, I had been teaching, and I had gotten sick. After, you know, and so I was sick for about a week, so I didn't shave, so a beard had started. So we were going to go to a wedding about a month or so. I says, you know, I'm just going to let it grow and show up with a beard. Because first of all, my grandmother, she's from Italy. She didn't recognize me. And then when she realized who I was, she wanted nothing to do with me until I shaved. Then she'd talk to me. So, you know, it was funny. I mean, but because back then anybody that had a beard was a hippie. You know, and you know, and that was just not cool.
Well,
so.
You better be careful with the next question here.
Okay.
Because I understand you met your wife at college.
Yes.
So when did you get married? You better be careful with that date.
August 3rd, 1969. How's that? You're right. I better remember that.
August 3rd, 1969.
Yeah.
Where'd you get married?
We got married in our hometown. She's also from Newburgh. Actually, our families knew each other. It's. Yeah, I know it sounds like an arranged marriage, but it wasn't.
I wasn't going to say that.
No, it was just one of those things. We had known each other in high school, but we didn't start dating until college, and then they were thrilled. I mean, our wedding was more of a party for them. It was like they were having a good time with each, you know, because they all knew each other.
Yeah.
They all grew up. Actually, they all grew up together.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so that was
1969.
Yes.
You tied the knot.
Yes.
In August.
Yes.
All right, man. All right.
Yeah. So.
And tell our viewing audience, you have a profession that's, shall we say, not often spoken of, at least not in the non-music world.
Right.
You're a piano tuner.
Right.
All right, so tell us about that. How did you get to be a piano tuner?
It was, part of it was the influence of my band director from elementary school. He got into it, and we talked about it, and I like working with my hands, and of course, I switched majors to piano, became a piano major, and of course, and no matter where you go, they say, oh, sit down and play a tune for us. So you sit down, and of course, the piano hasn't been tuned in 20 years. And keys don't work. So I says, you know, I just wanted to learn how to do it. And it just fascinated me. And I just got started, and I worked with him, and he showed me how to do it. And then one thing led to another. You know, well, like any business, you start small. I mean, as your reputation, word of mouth gets around, and you pick up, you know, and people start calling you, and then so I did that. Probably not full time, but that was one of the things that how I earned a living for. Well, actually, even up till today, although I've slowed it down quite a bit. I don't go out as much as I used to.
Now, I understand that to get through college, you played gigs.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about some gigs.
Oh, geez. Yeah, because I gigged all through high school. I was very fortunate. I fell in with a band.
Tell our viewing audience what a gig is. They may
Oh, yes, sure. A gig is it's music speak for when you play a job. Usually it's 4 hours long, like you play either in a nightclub, private parties. And so I fell in with a band in high school, and then and when I went to college, I didn't advertise it too much, but then because I figured freshman year I better concentrate on studying and getting
yes.
So, but then towards the end of my freshman year, they needed a keyboard player, and so I says, okay, I'll do it. And so I got my equipment up from home, and I show up, and of course, two of my professors are there playing. I said, oh, God. So here I am, a freshman, playing with some of my professors. And actually, and as throughout college, from time to time, I would end up actually hiring them.
Is that right?
Yeah, because you know, if I needed a player or something, you know, and because I ended up playing at a hotel. And every once in a while, in the cocktail lounge, but every once in a while they'd have a private party, and they didn't have a band, and they had the hotel to book the band, and so they asked me, and I put some of my friends together, and sometimes I'd ask. One time I asked one of my professors, you know anybody who does? He says, yeah, I'll play, and so.
There you go.
Off we went. I says they were great. I was very, very fortunate. I had some really, really great people teaching me when I went to college.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when I came here, when we moved to Connecticut, I started gigging with all the locals. And probably one of the last groups I worked with was a Greek band, believe it or not. That was real
interesting.
It was very interesting. Very.
What are the instruments common in Greek music?
Yeah, it was the only different instrument was the bouzouki, which is kind of like a long-necked sound, kind of sounded like not quite like a mandolin, but it's along that line.
Okay, yeah.
But turtle shaped, with a very long neck, but then one of the other fellows just played a regular guitar, and of course then keyboard and drums, bass player. So, one of the guys who played the bouzouki, his sister would sing. So it was fun. It was a whole nother culture that I didn't know anything about.
Did you get any baklava?
Oh yeah. And all the spanakopita and all the Greek stuff.
Absolutely.
It was nice. They were very good to me, and the crowds were great. The Greek people like to dance.
Yeah.
And it's nice because they do line dancing, so you don't have to have a partner.
Yep.
You just get at the end of the line.
Get at the end of the line and dance.
And that's it. And it didn't matter whether you knew the steps or not. They'd show you.
What is the Greater Hartford Arts Council, and what is your connection to it?
I think you mean the Academy.
The Academy, excuse me,
of Arts, yeah.
The Hartford Academy of Arts,
yeah. The Greater Hartford Academy was one of the first magnet schools, started back in 1985.
It was a magnet school.
A magnet school is where students, in this case it was high school students, they wanted something that would combine, it was actually part of a desegregation plan to get kids because kids from Hartford, minority students from Hartford were bused out to like Farmington and Plainville and to go to school out there.
Yep.
And they wanted something that was the reverse, where students from the suburbs would come into the city. And one of the things that came up was they wanted to, they thought, what would attract suburban students to come into the city to go to school with inner city students. And at that time, remember the show Fame?
I do.
Okay, well let's put a performing arts school, so that's how that whole thing got started. It was actually in a renovated funeral parlor.
Is that right?
On Weathersfield Avenue across from Buckley High School.
I remember that place.
The Sopos, yeah, and that's how it got started. And then of course now they're at the Learning Quarter over by Trinity College, as well as they have part of the old Colt Armory building.
Okay.
They've renovated part of that, so it's allocated in 2 locations. And it grew from 3 departments. It originally started out with dance, music, and drama. Yeah. And now they have musical, besides that, they have creative writing, graphic arts, the technical theater has become part of the drama department, and then of course the musical theater department.
So it's not so much the cookie cutter mode that you and I would have gone through.
No, not at all. And it was great because you had, the lovely thing about it is you had suburban kids who were interested in the arts going to school with urban kids who were interested in the arts, and
what a great marriage.
It was, because all of a sudden class, what kind of car you drive and all, it just didn't matter. The kids were friends. Kids that probably would never have been friends.
Absolutely.
Within about a week or two, they were tight knit, and it was a wonderful. It still is. I think it's a really good.
One educational experiment that worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually it grew. Now, I believe now on the high school level, there are 5 magnets each. And a magnet school has a theme. In our case, it was the arts.
Okay.
But there's math and science.
Yep.
There's sports and medicine, and I forget there's 2 more.
Yeah.
But that's the whole idea, was to bring kids together. Common interest. Because then everything doesn't matter anymore.
Peter, I've heard people say, and I'd like you to comment on this, that the first musical instrument was the human voice. Is that true?
Okay, not being a scientist, I have no idea. Well, it's kind of chicken and egg. Did they start pounding, on things percussively, or did they start singing? So I'd like to think either way, it doesn't matter because it's still music. But I'd like to think, since I've been with voice, that the singing was the first thing.
Now, most people watching, right?
Yeah.
How many letters are there in music, basically?
Seven.
A through
G.
There's 7 letters.
Yeah.
And from those 7 letters, all the music in the world we have.
Yeah. Because it'll start, if it starts like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts but at A, but at a higher pitch, and it just keeps, yeah. And of course we have flats and sharps that go with it, so the pitches are altered, but that's basically it, 7 letters.
Can you well, as a music person, you can.
Yeah.
But I don't think the average person watching understood that there are only 7 letters. That's it. And from those 7 letters, every piece of written music that we have came from those 7 letters in one arrangement or another.
Right. And in our Western European style of music, I mean, obviously you get into the Middle East and the Asia, it's totally different, but but that's about it.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And it's been like the way for several hundred years now.
And it's been working.
Obviously.
We're not going to tinkle with it now.
No. People have tried. I mean, especially that was an interesting time, because in the 60s when I was in college, that's when they were trying to get away from that.
Experimentation.
And, but, it's like, and some of it works, but I think, we always seem to keep coming back because it's hard to get away from that format in a lot of ways. I mean, sometimes they get away with it, and they even tried different notations, and sometimes the composers were they reinvent their own notation, and what you do is you'd have to read all the instructions and had to read the notation, in order to perform the piece.
In order to do it,
yeah. But you don't see too much of that, and I'm sure you still see that, but even modern composers are going back to the 7 letters. Of course, very different harmonies, of course, but that's about it.
You told me that the accordion was a very popular instrument in Italian culture.
Yes.
I've always associated it with Germans.
Yeah, well, maybe I said that because I'm Italian. But it was, no, if you go to, that's where I grew up, there was a very large Italian population. And all the teachers, accordion teachers in Newburgh at the time were Italian. So that's why I figured, so that's probably why.
There you go.
I imagine I know now that it being associated with the national, that if you go out in the Midwest where it's primarily Scandinavian and Germanic, I imagine most of the teachers there are Scandinavian or Germanic, and so you get more of that culture there. But back in the 50s, particularly if you were Italian or Polish for that matter, and I'm sure to some degree German, but most of the kids that I took, that were at the school that I took from were Italian. But somebody in the family played
an accordion. Somebody.
If it wasn't one of the kids, it was grandfather, father, uncles, aunts. But somebody played. Yeah. There was always it always seemed like somebody in the large family played the accordion, because it was very common. I mean, around here I've seen pictures since I've got involved with the Connecticut Accordion Association. Some guys my age have brought in pictures of when they were kids. One of the fellows, I guess from Danbury, and he showed the school, there must have been 60 kids in this orchestra. And he says that was only one of the orchestras in his school. So it was huge.
It's amazing.
It was really a huge phenomenon at one time. But then rock and roll came in and everybody wanted to play the guitar. That was the
that was the end of that.
That was the end of that. So
in 1975, you became the director of the Plainville Choral Society. How long did you serve in that position, and would you share a special memory from that period?
Yeah, I was in that position until about 3 years ago, 41 years altogether. With that group. Oh God, there's so many. I think it was just, boy, it's so hard because, well, okay, most people want to know. Every community group has the funny stories where things went wrong.
Yep.
Okay, real quick. This actually was the year before I took over. I was playing in the pit.
Yep.
And there was supposed to, it was Bells Are Ringing was the show.
Yep.
And there was a party scene, and there was supposed to be a phone on a desk.
Yep.
And the phone rings, and the guy goes to answer it, and nobody forgot to put the phone there. So it keeps ringing the phone. Well, off the stage, there was a huge old-fashioned lighting board, and it had a phone handle for an intercom.
Yep.
So they figured, oh, one of the stagehand figured, well, I'll just hand that phone from off stage. And it was great. And the guy was talking on the phone like he was supposed to, doing his dialogue and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And everything would have been fine, except they, and the guy holding the wire was going off stage. And everything was fine, but then somebody started messing with the curtain. I guess they thought they were going to try to cover up the wire. And of course, if you ever pull the curtain on no matter which way, it always goes the wrong way.
It always goes the wrong way.
And so now, instead of closing, the curtain open. So you saw a guy from about the elbow up with this holding on to the wire, and there was nothing you could do about it. No.
Live entertainment.
And the audience is howling, and the poor guy saying, he told us after, he says, I knew it was coming. He says, but I couldn't. He just kept talking. So that's the kind of stuff that went on. It was great.
That's all the time we have for tonight's show. My thanks to my guest, Peter Peluso, for sharing his story. Thank you for tuning in. Our stories are as different as each snowflake and are as beautiful and numerous as the stars. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time, good night, and please stay tuned. Peter's going to send us off with a very special tune.
This is the Jolly Caballero by Pietro Frosini.
Thank you.